So really quickly, I'm just going to talk about those three serous membranes in the ventral cavity that you have to know. The pericardium, which is going to surround the heart. Then there's the pleura, which is going to surround the lungs. And then there's the peritoneum, which is going to surround the abdominal organs. Now, the reason that we have this serous membrane, this double lining, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, around these organs is because these are organs that are going to be moving. So for example, at the heart, right, as it's beating in that thoracic cavity, as that heart beats, you don't want it to rub up against other surfaces, causing friction, right? It would actually damage the tissue over time if that heart was constantly beating up against the ribs, the rib cage, or the mediastinum here, or even against the lungs, because it's it's neighbored by the lungs. And the lungs are going to be moving as well. So if the heart and the lungs were moving right up against each other, it would constantly cause friction on those tissues and cause them to break down. So that's why these organs, same with the abdominal organs, your intestines are going to be undergoing peristaltic contractions to be able to move the food through the intestines. So again, you're going to need a serous membrane to reduce the friction on these organs that are constantly moving. So of these three serous membranes, I'm going to first talk about the heart, and this is my demonstration for the heart. So when you have this serous membrane, the serous membrane is actually going to be a double membrane. And the reason that is that it's basically like you've taken a balloon full of gelatinous fluid inside. So instead of air, there's going to be this gelatinous serous fluid inside that's going to, again, lubricate those movements. So what happens is this membrane is going to kind of act like this balloon. And as I push, if I can do this without popping the balloon here, as I push the heart inside that balloon, you can see that there, right? The inner membrane that's directly right around the heart there, can you see that on the inside, kind of? That membrane that's directly touching the heart, my fake wooden heart here, is going to be the visceral pericardium. In this case, again, it's the pericardium because that's the name of the serous membrane for this. If it were the lungs instead, it would be the visceral pleura. And if it were the abdominal cavity, and this was that inner layer was surrounding your abdominal organs, then we would call it the visceral peritoneum, okay? But in this case, again, we're doing the pericardium. I'm going to reset that there, get a good grip on it. And so you can see it's got that double membrane, right? So there's the visceral, and viscera means organ. So the visceral pericardium is going to be that inner layer that's directly surrounding and touching the heart there. And then this outer layer here is going to be the parietal pericardium. And the parietal pericardium, again, is the outermost layer that would be up against the other structures in the thoracic cavity. And then the space in between is actually called the pericardial cavity. So that space, I wish you could kind of see that better, but that space in between, there you can kind of see here, between here, the heart, inside here, and the visceral pericardium and this parietal pericardium. That space is called the pericardial cavity. And that is going to be the space that's going to be filled with that serous fluid. So now you can see my heart here. I'm going to kind of demonstrate. If my heart's beating, right, it's constantly beating, you can see as it's beating, inside here, that pericardial cavity is going to help, again, reduce the friction on any other structure that the heart would be next to help protect, again, those tissues. So again, that serous fluid is going to kind of basically kind of take the impact of those movements of the heart and again kind of buffer them basically inside that thoracic cavity. And that is going to be the case for, again, the pericardium. If this was, again, the lungs, if my heart here instead was the lungs, this would be the pleura, okay? And the inner layer would be the visceral pleura, the outer layer would be the parietal pleura, and that space in between would be the pleural cavity, filled again with that serous fluid. And then again, third case, if this was the peritoneum and instead of my heart here, this is all my abdominal organs here. And again, we have the visceral peritoneum, which would be right around all of our abdominal organs. The parietal peritoneum, that would be again on the outside in that abdominal cavity. And then the space in between would be the peritoneal cavity filled with that serous fluid. So again, hopefully that helps you to picture this double serous membrane. Again, this idea is that this balloon is filled with serous fluid, and that layer, as you push in the balloon, that directly surrounds the heart here, again, is that visceral layer, and then the outer layer here is the parietal layer, and then the space in between is going to be the cavity filled with serous fluid. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit with a demonstration, kind of if you have a balloon and you have, you know, some type of structure that can simulate, or even your fist, okay, that can simulate your heart. This is a great demonstration and a great way to kind of visualize it. So hopefully that helps you all.